Anime songs don't always need to have some deep meaning. Plenty of them are composed just to be a theme song that represents the show as closely as possible and not carry a lot of lyrical weight. But it's always a pleasant surprise when we get an opening written by an artist that's very talented at lyrical composition. The summer 2025 anime season featured 3 shows that were exciting for different reasons, but all of them had killer opening songs. Dr. Stone with Supernova by Kanabun, Dandadan with Kakume Dochu by Aina the End, and Night of the Living Cat with Cat City by the Yellow Monkey. All 3 are great songs, but which has the most meaningful lyrics? There's only one way to find out. Make them fight. Dr. Stone is an atypical Shonen Jump series that began airing in 2019, and I was excited to have it back for Science Future Part 2 in July. I love the very first opening by the Burnout Syndromes, but none of the others really caught my attention, until Kanabun's Supernova. As a group, Kanabun has been around for a while now. They made their major label debut back in 2013 and have a lot of anime tie-in songs to their name. Naruto Shippuden, Boruto, Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans, My Hero Academia, Fire Force, and so many more. Back in 2023, their drummer and lead guitarist actually departed the group for undisclosed personal reasons, which resulted in a big upheaval for the group. A bunch of shows were canceled, including a performance at the Budokan. But in 2024, they returned as a duo, vocalist and rhythm guitarist Magudo Taniguchi, who at this point was the only remaining original member, and bassist Masami Endo, with support members filling in on drums and lead guitar. In fact, Supernova is their first official single release since the group's return in 2024. Right out of the gate, Supernova has a very high energy level with a powerful guitar line that comes in right after the ra-da-da-da-da-da-da. And when the first verse begins, it's very clear that this song is written for the source material, steeped in ideas of science. If you've seen Dr. Stone, you'll know that there's always a conflict between Senku's crew, who wants to get the world back slowly to where it was using science, and whatever other group they happen to be up against who usually wants not that. The first verse lays this out with lines like, pretty on the nose for the plot of the series. The second verse has a line that's pretty interesting from a grammar perspective though. The word risen is just preparing for battle. And of course you have the English word win followed by sento. This phrase is a dialect equivalent, maybe kansai, of shinaito, meaning you have to do something. A less stylized version of this line would be katanaito. But the chorus is really Supernova's greatest strength. And the already high energy just shoots through the roof. So much of its memorable hooks are emphasis placed on English words, with some Japanese words kind of crammed in before them. The ideas of imagination and inquiry are obviously key concepts in Dr. Stone, but attaching libido to them gives this lyric sort of a rock flair, doesn't it? And the other chunk of the chorus ends with... The second chorus changes this iteration up a bit. The other part of the lyrics that I think really stick out is the pre-chorus a little bit later on, bringing up some figures from science that you probably recognize. I don't really think this line has any real deeper meaning about Einstein or Tesla. It's just used to create the general feel that Dr. Stone has, using all of this fundamental science that's been around forever to basically recreate the world. Some comments from the members of Kanabun were featured in a Natalie.mu article announcing the release of this single as well. Image, imagination, these are essential to music, or rather something that lies even deeper at the very core of human nature. That imagination became the theme for this song, and with it comes an infinite cycle of trial and error. The energy of challenging yourself over and over, turning imagination into reality, that's what's infused in this track. All in all, I think Supernova is a little bit more successful in its musicality and arrangement than it is purely lyrically. Dandadan probably needs no introduction, but it's a very popular, weird supernatural action comedy. Is that a good description? It began airing in 2024 and just came back this summer for its second season. Just in terms of anime alone, it's probably the all-star of these 3. But after the amazing creepy nut song Otonoke that was the first opening theme, Aina the End really had her work cut out for her when she signed on to do the second season opening with Kakume Dochu. And Aina has the youngest career of all of the artists we're talking about today as well. She made her record label debut in 2015 as a member of the alternative idol group Bish. By alternative, I mean that they were a group of young women singers whose primary focus was singing and dancing, yes, but the material they performed was not typical idol fare. It had a much more rock feel to it, and they didn't necessarily project that very clean, sterile idol image. I mean, the name of their debut album was Brand New Idol Shit. Bish disbanded in 2023. But before that happened, Aina the End had already begun her own solo career. That was a smart move because she easily has the most distinct voice of all of the members of Bish. It's very husky, and she's known for her ability to make her voice stylistically crack on command, similar to someone like Sheena Ringo or Ado, but it's still a style that's not all that common in Japanese women singers today. And actually, Aina has ties to the Yellow Monkey, the artist coming up next on this list. Frontman and main composer Kazuya Yoshi wrote Bish's final single, Bye Bye Show, and the other members of the Yellow Monkey performed the track. The B-side on that single was Bish's version of the Yellow Monkey's 1996 single, Spark. Funny because Bish's debut single was also called Spark, though it's a completely different song. Kakume Dochu may not start with the same kind of super high energy that Supernova does, but like most Aina the End songs, I think it offers a much more complex and interesting type of energy. There's still plenty of stuff that is relevant to the story of Dandadan, even in the first verse where you have feelings of wanting to protect others are themes that run all throughout Dandadan, particularly between Okarun and Momo. The evidence to support this comes from Aina herself in an interview on avexnet.jp. The lyrics in the first verse are written from Okarun's point of view, a boy's perspective, and in the opening animation, that section is literally shown from Okarun's perspective too. The visuals align perfectly with the lyrics, and that connection really hit me. She also confirmed the second verse is from Momo's perspective, saying, "I wrote it as a kind of love story between them." That second verse has lines like, you don't need to wait very long to figure out what show this is from either, because you very quickly hear in each verse, dan dan da da dan and dan da dan da dan. This might be the kind of thing I would ordinarily roll my eyes at, but the way Aina worked this in is actually very creative, and it gives the audience a fun call and response part when the song is performed live. And as we work our way back to the chorus, I also love how the song transitions through several styles on the way there. You have the slightly darker delivery of the verses that's lightened by the dan da dan da dan, and the pre-chorus gives you even more pop with a dame dame, mate mate, that leads into Aina's amazing devil transformation in the music video. And finally, before getting back to the chorus, you get another line that seems tailor-made for Dandadan. Kakume Dochu is an amazing example of how I think artists should write anime opening songs. It definitely references the source material, but doesn't just slap people in the face with it. Mostly. Make it a song that really says something and means something all on its own too, outside of the context of the show. It's also a perfect example of why Aina the End is one of Japanese music's most exciting artists right now. Her lyrics are always interesting and her vocal delivery is second to none. Not to mention the way she emotes is just amazing. You can see this not only in the music video for Kakume Dochu, but in her performances of it on The First Take or Tiny Desk. In the previous interview that I mentioned with avexnet.jp, Aina talked about how she was a big fan of the manga and was excited about it getting an anime adaptation. So naturally she was thrilled when she was offered the tie-in, stating that it also came at a time when I felt like I really need to give my all to a tie-in project, so that made me even happier. And when asked if she was worried that she might get too emotionally involved, she said, "Not really. Rather than getting carried away, I tried to really digest the world of the series, chew on it, so to speak, and think about how to interpret it musically. In that sense, I feel like Dandadan gave me a lot of hints and inspiration." It's also very clear that she understands the essence of Dandadan. Even in serious or intense battle scenes, Dandadan suddenly throws in bits of humor, right? It has this slightly comical side. I wanted to capture that. Instead of going full-on intensity with non-stop shouting, I wanted to make a song with a bit of looseness to it, a sense of air and space. And finally, we come to Night of the Living Cat, a show that just started airing this year but is based on a manga that's been running since 2020. It's a horror comedy, mostly comedy, that's about people trying to deal with a pandemic where cats are overrunning the world, now able to turn people into other cats when they touch them. So people need to stay away from cats, but they still find cats to be adorable. It's a fun idea, but it seems like it only has so much of a lifespan. Anyway, I was very pleasantly surprised by who was chosen to perform the opening theme. I'd consider myself somewhat of an expert on the Yellow Monkey. They're not only my favorite band, but I've been listening to them regularly and translating their lyrics since the late 90s. Yemon, the shortening of the band's name in Japanese, is easily the oldest of the artists here, having made their major label debut way back in 1992. They came out of a glam rock-inspired movement that was happening in Japan in the late 80s and early 90s, all based around a club in Shibuya that's still there now called La Mama. And like most bands who have been around this long, their sound has evolved over the years. But they've always maintained their core identity as a group. Kazuya Yoshi, who I mentioned earlier, is the primary songwriter and lyricist for the group. I'll be making a lot of videos on Yemon right here on this channel in the future, so stay tuned. Cat City features lyrics written by Yoshi, and guitarist Hideaki Kikuchi, aka Emma, wrote the music. This song is kind of the midpoint between Supernova and Kakume Dochu in terms of just how much it's directly about the source material. It's clear that Yemon was asked to make this song about Night of the Living Cat to some degree, but they also obviously had the creative freedom to inject their own meaning into the lyrics as well. And honestly, why would you ask Kazuya Yoshi to write you lyrics if you didn't want him to do that? That's his strong suit. But before we get into the lyrics, Cat City wins the award for Best Music Video out of these three. The costumes, the makeup, the set design, the concept, they're all just amazing, making this easily one of Yemon's best music videos ever. As far as the lyrics go, I think they're very in line with Night of the Living Cat. A bit serious seeming on the outside, but they quickly go into comedy, not taking themselves too seriously. You start out with these lines about how the city's been taken over completely by cats. But then just as we're about to get into the chorus, we have the nya backing vocal, which according to Yoshi was already in Emma's demo before any lyrics were written, though it was supposed to be na.
エマがデモで全然猫関係なしでニャーって入れてたんですよ。まあニャーじゃなかったんでしょうけど、多分ね、なーみたいな。だけどこのゲームなんでニャーになっちゃう。
And then it goes into the very silly but very catchy. That is the chorus. I may or may not sing this song to my cats regularly. One little gotcha for Japanese learners if you're trying to pick up these lyrics, it's not neko nyan pati, it's neko nyan pari. The meaning is no different, it's just more syllables in Japanese to say the full pati, so I think they just thought it would flow better shortened. And you start to see that these lyrics are about just what the show is, being a bit afraid of cats, but not being able to help but love them anyway. By the way, that's the official translation in the YouTube captions for the video. I don't know if I would have translated it exactly like that, but anyway, the chorus finishes off with I like this localization decision a little bit better than spooky cute, I will say. Give that fluff a go is way more colorful than just saying, try petting right here, the literal translation. Here's one of my favorite parts of the song. The names right up through American Shorthair are in fact actual types of cat breeds, but then you get into the more abstract. The lucky cat that you see in front of businesses beckoning people in is called a maneki neko, so a type of cat. And then you have dorobo neko, a word for a cat that steals things like food that isn't theirs, yes, but it's also a word that can be used to describe a person who's a thief too. For example, Early on in One Piece, Nami was referred to as Dorobo Neko Nami. It's also a word that can be used to describe adulterers, supporting Yoshi's usual thing of slipping sexual content into his lyrics. Though I could be off base on this, since Yoshi himself did say he consciously tried to make these lyrics easier for kids to understand and sing. But there's one more really interesting phrase. After the second chorus, Yoshi starts singing and if you just look at the kanji that make up this word, most browser extensions that highlight Japanese words will give you the meaning as kami and give you a definition of incredible, fantastic, amazing. But if you look at these kanji separately, they're the two pieces that make up the whole kanji for kami that means God. This is actually a piece of internet slang from the Ni-chan era. Let's say someone solved a particularly difficult problem. They might be praised by being called kami, but kami would be written like this and not like this. Why? Honestly, just because it was a weird and different way of writing it, I think. Kami, but written in the traditional way, is still used in slang now, too. For example, calling a really great game kami-ge, it's a god-tier game, or kami-kyoku, a godlike song. But as I just mentioned, Yoshi sings nemos, not kami. And that's because you can visually read these two kanji that way too. The first character resembles the katakana ne, and the second character is also a part of the verb mosu, which is a formal verb meaning to say or to be called. Like when you introduce yourself very formally and say, Burayan to moshimasu. And to finish off this very long aside, Yoshi also said that there's yet another meaning.
カタカナのね、猫のねと、あとこっちのモースは猿とも読めるんで、だから猫と猿のコラボなんで、ねモースと思いついて、天才みたいな。ね。天才。
So that leaves our final question. Which of these actually means something? Which one of them has the most meaningful lyrics? Putting my Yemon bias aside as much as I can, I have to call this a tie between Kakume Dochu and Cat City. I think they both play in some of the same spaces lyrically, just in different ways. Kakume Dochu is a bit more serious with little flights of fun, and Cat City is mostly the opposite. You've got two really great songwriters here that approached from slightly different angles. Regardless, all three of these songs prove that we're in a great place for anime songs these days. Which one of these do you think takes the top seat? Leave your comment below and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more Japanese music content like this.